This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Radar, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with Cinco Paul, the creative mind behind Schmigadoon. How are you today?
Great, and I'm thrilled to be talking to you.
Wonderful. We had the chance to meet early yesterday in person, and I have to note for all of our viewers, you were great last night. You were trying to do press on the red carpet while it was actively raining before they decided to move everything inside. But you didn't get all the way to me, but you talked to a lot of other people while it was like very strongly drizzling. So that is a commendable commitment to your craft, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I loved the moment when I saw that I was the only sucker who stayed out in the rain. There was a moment I looked and saw like, oh yeah, they're moving it inside for all the cast, those lightweights.
Well, anyway, it's great to be able to talk to you now, and I'm happy we have the we're both able to be indoors and away from the weather.
Nice.
So, can you tell me about your own enthusiasm for musicals and this shift from season one to season two thematically?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've loved musicals since I was really young. My mom used to play the cast recordings, the albums all the time. I particularly remember Camelot and South Pacific being two of my favorites. Oliver, when I was a kid, loved him so much. And so that really was the beginning. And then I saw Singing in the Rain, and I thought, I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing. And then a big turning point was also when I was a freshman in high school, they asked me to play piano for the school musical. And then I found my tribe, right? And then it's like these were my people, and so that was really it. And so I just always loved it, and I really love the golden age stuff. But I realized as I dove into the second season that there's love and then there's passion. And I think like these shows, because I discovered them all when I was a teenager, I'm really passionate about. Like they're more meaningful. Like I wanted to be Pippin, and I think, when you're a teenager, you're a little more dark and brooding anyway. And so it's like these musicals really speak to you at like that crucial moment of life.
I don't see a lot of musicals, on stage. I do mostly movies and of course some TV, but I did see South Pacific. I have a distinct memory when I was younger. I went to some dinner theater with my grandparents, and it was the first time that I saw an actor come out at the end and take a bow after his character had died. And that's just something that stuck with me, which is funny because, with movies and TV, you don't get that unless they come back as other characters or anything like that. But that's just South Pacific is always one I remember distinctly that way.
Yeah, that's all. Also, like Jesus comes back for his bows in Godspell after he's crucified, right? So theater creates resurrections all over the place.
Well, one of the things I enjoy most about season two of Schmigadoon is that, Melissa and Josh are like, "Oh, it's you," or not Josh because doesn't recognize anybody, but they're just like, "Oh, it's you," and they assume that there's something similar, which of course we all know that actors can do anything. They don't have to just have that. And I think that's a very sort of funny anchor for the audience.
Yeah, and it also creates like, especially with between Melissa and Dooley Blight, who she remembers as the mayor, it's this really bittersweet moment where she like had a real connection with him in the first season, but he doesn't remember her, right? But she's still kind of happy to be with him and she feels connected. And so it was really important to me as soon as I started to think about season two that like we bring all of our cast back and they're like a repertory theater company. Everybody's going to play a new character, and that was really exciting to the cast too, to get to stretch themselves and show they can the wide variety of roles they can play.
You did also get a few great new additions for season
Yes,
two.
we did. Yeah, Titus, what a dream to have him as our narrator. I mean, he kills it. He's so funny, but also those vocals like are insane. And then Patrick Page also, he's like so good at playing these evil, awful people, and he's just the sweetest person in real life. But he has this voice that sounds like pure evil.
Do you feel like you went for anything differently in season two, knowing the success of season one, whether it's terms of just, scale or performances, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was knowing exactly who you're writing for and playing to their strengths. And so it's like, okay, we stuck Jane in a car in season one. Let me give her a whole courtroom to play in season two. Let's try to make everything bigger, and I wanted to give people more chance to shine. So I gave Kristen big numbers that where she can do her vocal acrobatics, and I wanted to give Dove a lot more. I felt I didn't use her enough in season one, and so gave her a big part in season two. And it is really like looking at what you've got, and it's this amazing toy box of talent. And it's just like, oh, I'm going to have them do this, person do this, and this person do this, and also creating new pairings, right? But seeing that, like, oh, Dove and Cecily didn't get any time together season one, let's give them a lot of time in season two, stuff like that.
Do you want people to be able to pick out all the references, or do you hope that there's some sort of like confusing ambiguity to the fact that everything is sort of stacked right on top of each other?
Well, you get to the point now where people are finding references where there aren't any, really. And but I understand it, because we do put a lot in, so you tend to think that everything must be a reference, right? And so I just go with the flow. But sometimes people are pointing out references outside of our era, and I try not to do that. I'm if you see something outside of the 60s and 70s, I mean, I break one rule with Ariana's song in the final episode, but otherwise we're in firmly in those decades.
It's also funny because it's a TV show, but the references are not for TV watchers. They're for Broadway fanatics, or movie lovers. It's still, you don't have the TV. I feel like the TV musical is not as commonplace as it should be. Can Schmigadoon change this?
Yeah, I mean, I would love that. I think like musicals are the best. They just are. And so that we should have musicals on the stage, on the big screen, and on the little screen, or whatever you call TV. I don't know what you call TV anymore. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be part of helping to bring that back, but I'm on the shoulders of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Glee and Gallivant, and all these other shows too. So it's not like we're blazing new trails, but I do. I'm enjoying seeing our audience grow. It's really fun.
I also like those references, and I'd like to think that Gallivant is as popular as Glee. I'm not sure that those two, I think slightly
No,
different
because it didn't
audiences,
last
but
for 9 seasons or whatever Glee did, sadly. But yeah.
I think that might be a great reference actually for the self-referential nature. They talked about being canceled and then being revived and all that. And I think that this show is so much about knowing your surroundings and just processing the absurdity of all these musical conventions. And that makes it a lot of fun because you don't have to be a theater nerd to be able to enjoy it. I think you can really,
Right.
come in a different way. You don't get the same, fulfillment of all of those recognizing things, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was always the goal, that like it's like the frosting is for all the musical theater lovers, but the cake is the comedy that hopefully everybody can enjoy.
Course, of course. And I do think season 2 is definitely a lot darker. I know that's mirroring the era, but did you ever worry that it was getting a little bit too sort of chilling and bleak?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that we talked about initially, like Lauren, because Lauren was like, one concern was like, you don't want to lose the magic and fun of season one. People loved that so much. And I thought, well, we've got Josh and Melissa there, and it's just the spirit of the writers' room is always, we're silly, right? But so we've tried to find the fun and the funny in all of it, but also I really wanted us to feel the trauma of Alan's character and Dove's character, to make it, the more real that is, the more effective the show is in general. So it's like, you got to go there, because we're not making a cartoon, right? And the actors really rose to the challenge. I mean, like Alan like carries Dooley Blythe. Like, I mean, how this guy has never played Sweeney in his career yet, I do not know. But I was glad we got a version of that in our show.
I'm happy to report that is one of the few references that I knew I got that I was sure I was like, okay, I know this is Sweetie Todd. That in Chicago, I was like, these I got. The rest, I'm theoretical. I'm not gonna, write about it just to be safe. Don't embarrass myself. But
Yeah, you just need to do a little research, Abe. What does this like send you back to? I do enjoy that, like this is hopefully making people think, oh, I should listen to Pippin again, or I should watch Godspell, or some of these other shows again, and rediscover them, because they are so great.
Yeah. Well, I know it was nerve-wracking to wait for the season 2 renewal. I'm not sure if you knew before everyone else did, but I remember it took a little bit of time. I'm sure you have more in development. Do you think season 3 is something we might hear about soon?
Um, I don't. I mean, I all I can say is I would love to keep working on this show and keep doing it, and especially this cast and everybody that we've assembled. I would love to make stuff with them for the rest of my life. So I'm very hopeful. That's all I'll say. And I think the reception so far to season 2 has been great, and only helps with that cause. So fingers crossed.
How much do you have mapped out season-wise?
I mean, I like very early on when I first sold it to Apple, I sort of had like a big vision in my head of like where we could potentially go with multiple seasons. So I've got maybe a little something, but that's all I'll say right now. I know you're doing your job trying to pry it out of me, but I'm gonna
No, no, I actually I don't want to get people in trouble. I very often have people who are like, "Should I say this?" And it's like, "No,
feel
probably
like no, no,
let's,
no, no,
you
no.
know."
Yeah.
So, well, so then for my last question, I'll say, for those who haven't seen Schmigadoon yet and are somehow for some reason watching this interview, which is great, welcome, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, would you recommend everything, the episodes, the first few episodes are together and then once a week after that, would you recommend binging the whole thing all in one fell swoop to catch up, or is it better broken up the way it is, airing?
I mean, I think it depends on the person, right? Some people are natural bingers, and they like to do that. I am not a binger. I like handle one or two episodes in a row at most. That's the way I like my TV. So if you're like me, I think it's great to spread it out and then just enjoy it, and like I think our show rewards rewatching, like multiple viewings. And so I encourage people to do that. And but for the bingers out there, yeah, sure, wait. You can wait and watch it all. I mean, it's 3 hours to watch all 6 episodes. It's about the length of a big musical, so you can watch it in one sitting too.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes today and eagerly awaiting news of season 3.
You and me both.